Hey, it's Mark here, and welcome to the next edition of the Employee Survival Guide, where I tell you, as always, what your employer does definitely not want you to know about, and a lot more.
Okay, so I want to take a look at this lawsuit between Katie Puris and TikTok.
Sure.
We've got court documents here.
Okay.
Including Puris's second amended complaint.
Right.
And a court decision that reveals some pretty serious allegations.
Yeah.
We're talking sexual harassment, retaliation, and even a look into TikTok's relationship with its parent company in China.
ByteDance.
So
what's interesting about this case is it goes beyond like one woman's experience.
Right.
It raises questions about corporate culture, the influence of international companies in the U.S. data privacy.
Exactly. So let's start with Katie Puris.
Okay.
This is a woman with a pretty impressive resume, worked at Google, Facebook, before she got a top marketing job at TikTok.
Okay.
And initially, she was really excited about the role, loved building the brand, even got to represent TikTok at CES, at a huge tech conference.
Yeah.
And get this, her team loved her.
Oh, wow.
Their feedback was super positive.
That's great.
Highlighting her vision, her passion, and leadership skills.
It's interesting how that early success makes the later allegations even more stark.
Yeah.
According to the complaint, things started to change when Puris was moved into a global role.
Okay.
Reporting to executives that were based in China.
Interesting.
And that's when she claims the micromanagement started.
Uh-oh.
And she even alleges that there was a kill list.
A kill list?
And she ended up on it.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's not a literal kill list, of course.
Right.
But the complaint suggests that it was a list of employees that were targeted for removal.
Okay.
Potentially because of things like their age performance or even just not fitting in with the company culture.
Okay, that's starting to paint a picture of a potentially hostile work environment.
Yeah.
And this all ties into Puris's lawsuit.
Exactly. She filed a lawsuit alleging discrimination based on her age, her gender, and her health issues.
Wow.
She also claimed that TikTok interfered with her rights under the Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. Now, this is a federal law that protects your right to take unpaid leave for specific reasons, like a serious health condition.
Right.
Or to care for a new child without fear of losing your job.
So the complaint is essentially saying that TikTok discouraged employees from taking leave, even though it's against the law.
That's the gist of it.
Okay.
The complaint states that there was this culture of discouraging leave, which could be interpreted as interfering with those protected rights.
Now, where does ByteDance fit into all of this?
Right.
We know TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. But what role did they allegedly play in this whole situation?
That's where things get really interesting. Puris's lawsuit dives deep into the corporate structure of TikTok.
Okay.
Claiming that ByteDance had much more control over TikTok's U.S. operations than they've publicly acknowledged.
Really?
For example, the complaint alleges that ByteDance had a heavy hand in controlling the budget and headcount for Puris's team. They micromanaged marketing decisions and even dictated hiring preferences.
Wait, they allegedly controlled hiring? What kind of preferences are we talking about?
Well, according to the complaint, there was this push to hire younger employees. There's even a quote attributed to a male executive expressing a preference for young, fresh talent.
Oh, wow.
Puris claims that this preference for younger workers created a hostile work environment for older employees like herself.
That's concerning. It sounds like they were prioritizing a certain age demographic over experience and qualifications.
Yeah.
And how does this all tie back to the kill list we were talking about earlier?
It's possible that the kill list was a way to target employees who didn't fit this desired mold.
Yeah.
Whether it was because of their age, their gender, or other factors. Remember, Puris was moved into a global role, reporting to executives in China, right before things allegedly started to go downhill.
So the complaint is suggesting that the alleged discrimination might have stemmed from ByteDance's influence and their corporate culture.
That seems to be the implication. Yeah, that's what it suggests. And this raises some pretty important questions about corporate control,
Right.
data privacy, and the influence of international companies operating in the U.S.
Okay. You're really making me think about the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
So aside from the kill list and the ageism allegations,
Right.
what other examples of discrimination are outlined in Puris's complaint?
Well, the complaint highlights this significant gender imbalance, especially in leadership positions at TikTok. It points out that only 3 out of 15 members of the executive leadership team were women.
Wow. That's a pretty stark statistic.
Oh,
It definitely doesn't paint a picture of equality.
No, it doesn't.
In leadership.
Right. And the complaint argues that this lack of representation contributed to a culture where women's voices were often marginalized.
Yeah.
There's a specific example where Puris was criticized for celebrating her team's accomplishments during a presentation.
Oh, really?
And this was seen as a lack of humility, something that she claims her male counterparts were never held to.
So she was essentially being penalized for behavior that was considered acceptable.
Right.
Even encouraged in men.
Yeah.
It's almost like a double standard.
Exactly. And according to the complaint, there's another instance where a senior executive in China expressed disapproval of Puris's presentation style, stating that women should always be humble and modest.
That's so outdated and, frankly, pretty offensive. It's a good thing those types of attitudes are being challenged more and more these days.
Absolutely. And these examples highlight the pervasive nature of the alleged discrimination.
Yes.
It wasn't just about individual incidents,
Right.
but about a systemic pattern of behavior.
Okay, we've talked about the allegations of age and gender discrimination.
Yeah.
But there's also a sexual harassment claim in this lawsuit. Right?
Yes.
This is where things take a really serious turn.
Yeah, this is a significant part of the complaint. Puris alleges that she was sexually harassed by a senior executive
Okay.
during a work trip to Cannes for an industry event.
Cannes. That's a pretty glamorous setting. I can't imagine something like that happening there.
Unfortunately, harassment can happen anywhere.
That's true.
According to the complaint, this executive made a number of inappropriate comments and advances toward Puris, making her extremely uncomfortable.
That's awful. What happened after she was harassed? Did she report it?
The complaint states that she did report the incident to HR,
Okay.
but she alleges that the company's response was dismissive and inadequate.
So they didn't take her complaint seriously. That's disturbing to hear.
It is. And what happened next makes the whole situation even more troubling. Just days after reporting the sexual harassment, as well as the age and gender discrimination, Puris was fired.
Wait, she was fired. What was the reason they gave?
Officially, she was let go for performance reasons.
Okay.
But given the timing, it's hard not to see it as potential retaliation for speaking out.
Right. It definitely raises questions about whether those performance reasons were genuine or just a convenient excuse to get rid of her after she made these complaints.
That's a key point that will likely be explored in court. And this is where the Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Harassment and Sexual Assault Act comes into play.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the significance of this act?
So before this act, companies could often force employees into arbitration to settle disputes like sexual harassment claims. Arbitration is a private process, meaning it happens outside of the court system, and the details are kept confidential.
So it was basically a way to keep these issues quiet and out of the public eye.
Exactly. But this new law prevents companies from forcing employees into arbitration for sexual harassment and assault claims.
Okay.
This means that victims now have the right to pursue their cases in court, making the process more transparent and potentially holding companies more accountable.
That's a huge win for victims.
Yeah.
It gives them the option to have their day in court and allows for greater public scrutiny of these issues.
Exactly. And in Puris's case, this act proved to be crucial.
Okay.
TikTok tried to compel arbitration, but the court denied their motion, meaning her case will proceed in the public court system.
That's a significant victory for Puris.
Yeah.
It allows her case to move forward and prevents TikTok from silencing her claims through private arbitration.
Right.
So what happened with the case next?
Well, on January 30th, 2025, the court issued a decision denying TikTok's motion to dismiss the case,
Okay.
which is a big development.
What did the court decide?
The court decided that Puris has adequately alleged claims of discrimination and retaliation, which means her case can proceed to trial.
That's a big win for her, right?
Yes. It means the court found enough merit in her allegations to allow the case to continue.
So TikTok will now have to defend itself against these accusations in court,
Yes.
potentially revealing even more about their corporate culture and the extent of ByteDance's influence.
Yeah.
This case isn't just about Katie Puris anymore.
No.
It could have far-reaching implications for the tech industry as a whole.
Oh.
Wow, this is getting more and more intense.
Yeah.
It's amazing how one lawsuit can open up so many questions about corporate power discrimination and data privacy.
Is.
Okay, so we've talked about the key allegations in the complaint, the role of ByteDance, the sexual harassment claim, and the significance of the Ending Forced Arbitration Act.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more aspect of this story that we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
The complaint also raises concerns about data privacy.
That's right. And this is where things get even more complex and potentially concerning.
Yeah, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
The complaint actually touches on this in a pretty unsettling way.
Okay.
It alleges that ByteDance has the right to inspect the personal electronic devices of U.S. employees.
Really? So they can just go through employees' phones and laptops whenever they want?
That's what the complaint claims. And if it's true,
Yeah.
it raises a lot of red flags about how much access ByteDance has to potentially sensitive information.
Right. I can see why that would be concerning. I mean, if they have that access to employee devices.
What's stopping them from accessing user data as well?
That's the question a lot of people are asking this case, is shining a light on the potential risks associated with a Chinese company having control over a platform that's so popular here in the U.S.
Right. It makes you think about all the data that we share on these platforms, our personal information, our browsing history, our location data.
Mm-hmm.
It's unsettling to think that all that could potentially be compromised.
It is, and it brings up broader concerns about data security and privacy in the digital age. I mean, with so much of our lives happening online, we need to be aware of who has access to our data and how it's being used.
So this case isn't just about one woman's experience at TikTok. It's about something much bigger.
Right.
It's about corporate power, data privacy, and the influence of international companies in the U.S.
You got it. This case is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's forcing us to ask some tough questions about the companies we interact with, the data we share, and the laws that are supposed to protect us.
And where does this all leave Katie Puris?
Well, the court's decision to deny TikTok's motions to compel arbitration and to dismiss the case means that her case is moving forward. She'll have her day in court, and TikTok will have to answer for the allegations against them.
So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. This case has the potential to set a precedent for how companies handle discrimination, harassment, and data privacy concerns in the future.
It does, and it's a reminder that we all have a voice and that speaking up against injustice can make a difference.
So there you have it. The story of Katie Puris, and TikTok is far from over, but it's already sparked important conversations about corporate responsibility and individual rights. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in holding powerful entities accountable.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that no matter how big a company is, they're still subject to the law and to the voices of those who speak truth to power.
Absolutely. Keep asking questions, stay informed, and never be afraid to speak up. Your voice matters.
If you like the Employee Survival Guide, I'd really encourage you to leave a review. We try really hard to produce information to you that's informative, that's timely, that you can actually use and solve problems on your own and at your employment. So if you like to leave a review anywhere you listen to our podcast, please do so. And leave 5 stars, because anything less than 5 is really not as good, right? I'll keep it up. I'll keep the standards up. I'll keep the information flowing at you. If you'd like to send me an email and ask me a question, I'll actually review it and post it on there. You can send it to Carey at capclaw.com. That's capclaw.com.